The bar was supposed to be just another stop on the map, another shadowed room where the night swallowed secrets whole. But for Sofia Marino, the air felt heavier than usual, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Low amber lights washed over polished wood and crystal shelves, making the bottles glow like trapped fireflies. Jazz hummed softly from hidden speakers, smooth enough to relax anyone who didn't know what this place really was. Sofia did. She had worked at Luna Noir long enough to recognize danger the way sailors sensed storms. It wasn't always loud. Sometimes it walked in wearing an expensive suit and a calm smile. Tonight, it walked in at exactly 9:17 p.m. The door opened without drama, but the energy shifted instantly. Conversations dipped. Laughter thinned. Even the bartender at the far end paused mid-pour. Sofia looked up just once, and felt her stomach tighten. Adrian Volkov, the Mafia king of the East Coast. He didn't announce himself. He never had to. His presence carried authority the way thunder carried rain, inevitable, commanding, impossible to ignore. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair brushed back neatly, Adrian moved with a quiet confidence that made space part for him without asking. His eyes scanned the room briefly, sharp and controlled, before settling on the bar. On her. Sofia forced her expression into something neutral, professional. Inside, her heart started pounding. Why here? Why tonight? Adrian took a seat at the bar, 2 stools away from anyone else. He didn't bring guards inside, he rarely did. He believed fear worked better than muscle. Still, Sofia knew there would be men outside, watching exits, counting breaths. What do you recommend? He asked calmly. His voice was smooth, low, with an accent softened by years in America. It wasn't threatening. That made it worse. Sofia swallowed. Depends what kind of night you're having. The kind that ends badly for someone, he replied, a faint smile touching his lips. Her fingers tightened around the glass she was drying. She had heard stories. Everyone had. Deals that ended in disappearances. Enemies who vanished without headlines. Men who underestimated Adrian Volkov and paid for it in silence. She reached for a crystal tumbler, her movements steady despite the tension humming through her veins. Whiskey? She asked. Yes. As she turned to the shelf, she caught a reflection in the mirror behind the bar, someone at the back, barely noticeable, adjusting his jacket. A man who didn't belong. Her pulse spiked. No, not here. She poured the whiskey slowly, watching the amber liquid settle. Her mind raced. 2 weeks ago, she'd overheard something she was never meant to hear. A shipment. A betrayal. A plan to remove a king from his throne by poisoning his glass in a place he trusted. In this bar. Tonight. Sofia slid the glass toward Adrian, her face composed, her hands steady. Her heart screamed at her to run, to say nothing, to survive. But then she thought of her brother, still trying to rebuild his life after getting tangled with the wrong people. She thought of the innocent staff who would be blamed if things went wrong. And she thought of the man sitting in front of her, dangerous, yes, but unaware. As Adrian reached for the glass, Sofia leaned forward, just enough for her voice to reach him alone. Don't touch the glass, she whispered. His fingers froze midair. For half a second, the world seemed to stop. Adrian's eyes flicked up to hers, sharp and unreadable. What did you say? He asked quietly. Sofia's breath caught. She forced a small, polite smile, like she was sharing a harmless joke. With her free hand, she slid a folded napkin across the bar toward him. Smile and leave. Now. Adrian unfolded it slowly, his face giving nothing away. Around them, the bar buzzed softly, unaware that a line had just been crossed. You're very brave, he said under his breath. Before Sofia could respond, his hand shot out, not to the glass, but to her wrist. Her breath hitched as his grip closed around her skin. Not painful, but firm. Possessive. Final. Kings don't leave because someone tells them to, Adrian murmured, leaning closer. Especially not without answers. Sofia's pulse thundered in her ears. She tried to pull back, but his grip tightened slightly, warning her not to try again. You need to let go, she whispered, panic threatening to crack her voice. I need you to explain, he replied, eyes darkening. And you're going to do it very carefully. She glanced toward the back of the bar, where the suspicious man now stood too still, watching. Time was slipping away. There's no time, Sofia said urgently. If you drink that, Adrian cut her off with a subtle shake of his head. If there's poison in my glass, he said calmly, then everyone responsible will already be dead by morning. What interests me is why you care. Her lips parted, but no words came. She hadn't planned this far. She hadn't planned for him to touch her, to pull her into his gravity. I didn't say I cared, she said finally. Adrian's mouth curved into a slow, dangerous smile. You warned me. That's the same thing. He released her wrist, but instead of leaving, he pushed the glass back toward her. Replace it, he ordered softly. And then you're coming with me. Sofia stared at him. I can't. You can, he said, standing now, towering over the bar. Because whoever tried to kill me tonight just made you part of my world. The man at the back of the bar shifted, sensing something had gone wrong. Adrian didn't even look his way. Smile, Adrian said quietly to Sofia. Act normal, or this place becomes very loud. With shaking hands, Sofia picked up the glass. She had tried to save a king. Instead, she had caught his attention. And in Adrian Volkov's world, that was far more dangerous than poison. Sofia's hands trembled just enough for her to notice, but not enough for anyone else to see. Years behind the bar had taught her control, how to smile through exhaustion, how to ignore drunk tempers, how to keep secrets that weren't hers to tell. But nothing had prepared her for the weight of Adrian Volkov's attention. She replaced the glass with a fresh one, poured carefully, and slid it toward him. This time, he didn't touch it. Instead, he watched her. Drink it, he said calmly. Her breath caught. What, if it's safe? Adrian continued, voice level, you drink first. The bar felt smaller suddenly, the ceiling lower, the walls pressing in. Sofia knew refusing would look suspicious. Agreeing could kill her. Either way, she was trapped. She picked up the glass, meeting his gaze. His eyes were cold now, not cruel, not angry, just assessing, like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. She took a small sip. Nothing happened. Adrian nodded once. Good, he said, finally lifting the glass and taking a slow drink himself. His expression didn't change. No reaction. No sign of danger. But Sofia knew better. Poison didn't always act fast. Adrian stood, setting money on the bar, far more than the drink cost. Close your register, he said quietly. You're done for the night. I can't just leave, she whispered. My manager. I'll speak to him, Adrian replied. And if anyone asks, you're sick. His tone left no room for argument. She hesitated, glancing toward the back of the bar again. The man in the jacket was gone. That didn't make her feel safer. Adrian stepped closer, lowering his voice. If you want to live, he said, you'll come with me. If you want to die, stay here. The choice wasn't really a choice. Sofia grabbed her bag from beneath the counter, her heart racing. As she followed Adrian toward the exit, the normal sounds of the bar washed over her, laughter, glasses clinking, music playing, oblivious to how close violence had come. The cold night air hit her as soon as they stepped outside. A black SUV waited at the curb, engine running. Two men stood nearby, alert, scanning the street. Adrian opened the back door and gestured for her to get in. Wait, Sofia said, stopping short. You said you wanted answers. I do, he replied. And I prefer privacy. She hesitated only a second longer before sliding into the car. The door closed behind her with a solid thud that echoed in her chest. As the SUV pulled away, Sofia realized just how far she'd crossed the line. Inside the vehicle, the silence was heavy. Adrian sat across from her, his presence filling the space. The city lights streaked past the tinted windows, turning the world outside into a blur. Start talking, he said. She took a breath. 2 weeks ago, a man came into the bar late. He thought we were closed. He was on the phone. He talked about a shipment being delayed, and a backup plan. Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. Go on. He mentioned your name, Sofia continued. Said you were predictable. That you always ordered the same drink. Same bar. Same time of night. The SUV slowed as they turned onto a quieter street. He said poison would be clean, she whispered. No noise. No witnesses. Adrian leaned back, considering her words. Names, he said. I don't have any, Sofia replied quickly. I only saw his face once. He paid cash. Never came back. That's unfortunate, Adrian said coolly. I didn't tell anyone, she added. I tried to forget it. But tonight, when I saw that man at the back of the bar, I knew. Adrian studied her for a long moment. You risked your life for a stranger, he said. Why? Sofia laughed bitterly. You're not a stranger. You're a ghost story people tell to scare each other. That didn't answer my question. She hesitated. Then, quietly, because I know what it's like to lose someone to this world. Adrian's expression shifted, just slightly. Explain. My brother, she said. He made one mistake. Trusted the wrong people. It nearly destroyed him. She met Adrian's gaze, something fierce rising in her chest. I won't watch it happen again if I can stop it. The car stopped. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You should know something, he said calmly. People who get involved in my problems don't walk away. I'm not asking to, Sofia replied. I just want to go home. Adrian smiled faintly. You already left it. The door opened. One of his men stepped aside, revealing a tall, guarded building with no signs, no windows at street level. My house, Adrian said. You'll stay here tonight. I'm not your prisoner, Sofia snapped. No, he agreed. You're my liability. Inside, the house was quiet, elegant, and intimidating. Marble floors, soft lighting, walls lined with art she couldn't name. It felt less like a home and more like a fortress pretending to be one. A woman approached, calm and professional. A guest room is prepared, she said to Adrian, glancing briefly at Sofia. Make sure she's comfortable, Adrian replied. And watched. Sofia's stomach dropped. Watched. For your protection, he said. And mine. As she was led down the hallway, Sofia looked back at him. You grabbed my hand back there, she said softly. Why? Adrian paused. Because, he replied, liars pull away. Her breath caught. And you didn't. The door to the guest room closed behind her with a quiet click. Alone at last, Sofia leaned against it, heart pounding. She had tried to stop a murder. Instead, she had entered the kingdom of a king who never forgave debts. And Adrian Volkov had just decided she was worth keeping close. Sofia didn't sleep. She lay on the wide guest bed, staring at the ceiling as shadows shifted with the slow movement of security lights outside the tall windows. The room was beautiful. Soft linens, neutral colors, a faint scent of clean wood and something expensive, but comfort was impossible. Every sound felt amplified. A distant door closing, footsteps echoing somewhere below, the quiet hum of a house that never truly rested. This wasn't a home. It was a command center disguised as luxury. Sometime past midnight, she heard the click of the door unlocking. Sofia sat up instantly, pulse racing. Adrian stepped inside alone. He wore a dark shirt now, jacket gone, sleeves rolled back slightly. He didn't look like a man who had nearly been poisoned hours earlier. He looked like someone who had already moved on to the next problem. Relax, he said calmly, closing the door behind him. If I wanted you harmed, it would have happened already. That's comforting, Sofia replied dryly. Adrian's lips twitched. You're sharper than I expected. I don't think you had expectations, she said. He studied her for a moment, then moved to the chair near the window instead of approaching the bed. It was a deliberate choice. Distance, control. I've confirmed what you told me, Adrian said. One of my men noticed the same face you described outside the bar. He vanished before we could grab him. Sofia's stomach twisted. So it was real. It was, Adrian replied. Which means you just saved my life. She let out a slow breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Then I should be free to go. Adrian shook his head. That's not how this works. Frustration flared. I didn't do this to get involved in your world. No, he agreed. But now you are. He leaned forward slightly. Someone tried to kill me using information only a few people had. My routine. My habits. That means betrayal. Sofia's skin prickled. And until I know who sold that information, Adrian continued, everyone connected to tonight is at risk. Including you. So you're protecting me, she said skeptically. I'm containing you, he corrected. She crossed her arms. Big difference. Yes, he said calmly. One keeps you alive. The other keeps me safe. Silence stretched between them. Why not kill me? Sofia asked quietly. I know too much now. Adrian's gaze sharpened. You don't know enough to be dangerous, he said. And too much to be disposable. That answer chilled her more than a threat would have. He stood. You'll stay here until this is resolved. How long is that? She demanded. Adrian met her eyes. As long as it takes. The door closed again, leaving Sofia alone with the weight of his words. Morning arrived without warmth. Sunlight filtered through heavy curtains, casting pale lines across the room. Sofia forced herself out of bed, splashing cold water on her face in the bathroom. She barely recognized the woman staring back, tired eyes, tense shoulders, fear tucked behind defiance. A knock came at the door. Breakfast was delivered on a tray by the same woman from the night before. Polite, silent, efficient. Am I allowed to walk around? Sofia asked. Yes, the woman replied. Within certain areas. Of course, Sofia muttered. The house revealed itself slowly as Sofia explored. Long corridors, open spaces, a gym, a library. Everywhere she went, she felt eyes on her, guards positioned subtly, never close enough to speak, never far enough to forget. In the library, she found Adrian. He stood near a large desk, speaking quietly into a phone. He glanced at her once but didn't stop. No mistakes, he said into the receiver. If someone talks, I want to know before the echo fades. He ended the call and turned to her. You look like you want to yell at me, he observed. I want answers, Sofia replied. About what happens next? Adrian gestured to a chair. Sit. She hesitated, then did. I'm moving my operations underground for a few days, he said. Your bar will be closed. Staff paid. No questions. That's extreme, Sofia said. Someone tried to kill me, he replied flatly. That's efficiency. She studied him. You don't seem angry. I am, Adrian said. Anger just isn't useful unless controlled. That's terrifying, she said honestly. A pause. Most people are terrified of me, Adrian replied. You're not. I am, Sofia corrected. I'm just not stupid enough to show it. A faint smile appeared. Fair. He leaned back. I want you to think carefully, Sofia. Everything you saw, everything you heard that night, even things that didn't seem important. I already told you everything. People often say that, Adrian replied. And they're usually wrong. Their eyes held. There was something unsettling about being seen this clearly, like he was peeling layers away, reading the pauses between her thoughts. You saved my life, Adrian said suddenly. That creates a debt. I don't want anything from you. Everyone wants something, he said. Sometimes it's safety. Sometimes it's freedom. Sofia's jaw tightened. You're holding both hostage. For now, he admitted. A guard entered quietly and spoke in Adrian's ear. His expression darkened. Stay here, Adrian told Sofia, already moving toward the door. Wait, she said. What's happening? He paused. We found the man who poisoned the glass. Her breath caught. Alive. Adrian turned back, eyes cold. Barely. He left. Sofia sat alone in the vast room, heart racing. Someone had tried to kill a king. And she was now standing between him and his vengeance. Whatever happened next, she knew one thing for certain. Adrian Volkov would not let this end quietly. And neither, she suspected, would she. The house felt different after Adrian left. Quieter, sharper, like the air itself was waiting for something to break. Sofia paced the library, her steps soft against the polished floor. Every few minutes, she glanced toward the doorway, half expecting Adrian to return with blood on his hands, or worse, answers she didn't want to hear. She told herself it wasn't her concern. This wasn't her war, but it had already spilled into her life. Nearly an hour passed before she heard footsteps again. Not rushed, controlled, the kind of pace that meant whatever had happened was already decided. Adrian entered alone. He looked exactly the same as before, calm, precise, unreadable. If he had just come from interrogating a man who tried to poison him, there was no sign of it on his face. You were right, he said, breaking the silence. Sofia stopped pacing. There was poison in the glass, Adrian replied. Enough to stop a heart in under 5 minutes. Her stomach twisted. And the man, he talked, Adrian said simply. She hesitated. And he wasn't the one who planned it. That was worse than she expected. Adrian moved to the desk and poured himself a drink, water this time. He was paid to switch the glass. That's all. By who? Sofia asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. Someone close. The words hung heavy between them. You're being hunted by your own people, Sofia said quietly. Yes, and I just happened to be in the middle of it. Adrian met her gaze. You're more in the middle than you realize. A chill ran through her. What does that mean? It means, he said, the man who ordered this knew I trust that bar. He knew I wouldn't question the drink. And he knew a bartender wouldn't be searched or suspected. Sofia's breath caught. You think this was planned around me? I think, Adrian replied carefully, that you were a variable he didn't account for. That doesn't make me a target, she argued. It makes you inconvenient, Adrian said. Which is often worse. She crossed her arms. So what now? Now, he said, I eliminate the threat. Sofia stiffened. You're going to kill him. Adrian didn't deny it. He already signed his own sentence. And what about me? She asked. What happens when this is over? Adrian studied her, longer this time. That depends on you. I saved your life, she snapped. Isn't that enough? It's the reason you're still here, he replied evenly. Not the reason you're free. Her frustration boiled over. You don't get to decide my life because of your enemies. Adrian stepped closer. Not threatening, not gentle, just present. In my world, he said quietly, danger doesn't ask permission. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Adrian sighed, softly, almost imperceptibly. Sit, he said. She did. I don't want you afraid of me, Adrian continued. Fear makes people careless. That's ironic, Sofia said. Considering who you are. A corner of his mouth lifted. I don't need you afraid. I need you honest. About what? About why you really warned me, he said. Not the story you told. The reason you moved when you could have stayed silent. Sofia swallowed. She hadn't planned to say this. But something in his tone, less command, more curiosity, made lying feel pointless. My mother worked in a restaurant, she said quietly. Years ago, she saw something she wasn't supposed to. Adrian's expression didn't change, but his attention sharpened. She didn't tell anyone, Sofia continued. Didn't interfere. Didn't warn anyone. She looked up at him. It didn't matter. Adrian understood immediately. She paid for it anyway. Sofia nodded. I promised myself I wouldn't be that quiet. The room felt heavier after that. You broke a cycle, Adrian said slowly. That takes courage. Or stupidity, Sofia replied. He shook his head. Stupid people don't survive long enough to regret their choices. Another pause. There's something else, Adrian said. The man who ordered this, he knows you exist now. Her chest tightened. Because of tonight. Yes. So even if you let me go, she said, I wouldn't be safe. No, Adrian admitted. You wouldn't. She laughed bitterly. So staying here is my best option. For now, he said again. Sofia looked around the vast room, the guards, the invisible walls. I feel like I traded one cage for another. Adrian met her gaze. Then I'll be clear with you. He leaned in slightly. You are not my prisoner. You are under my protection. That protection comes with rules. And if I break them, then I stop protecting you. The threat was calm, absolute. Sofia inhaled slowly. What are the rules? Rule 1, Adrian said. You don't leave without telling me. Rule 2, you don't lie to me. She raised an eyebrow. And Rule 3, Adrian's eyes held hers. You don't underestimate how dangerous this has become. Silence followed. Finally, Sofia nodded. Fine, good, Adrian said, straightening. Because tomorrow, you're coming with me. Her heart skipped. Where? To meet someone who can identify the man you saw, Adrian replied. And possibly the person who ordered my death. That sounds extremely unsafe. Yes, Adrian agreed. It is. He paused at the door. Get some rest, Sofia. Things get worse before they get clear. When he left, Sofia sank back into the chair, pulse racing. She had stepped into the world of a king at war. And the closer she got to the truth, the more she realized. The real danger wasn't the poison. It was the man protecting her. Morning didn't arrive gently. It came sharp and urgent, like everything else in Adrian Volkov's world. Sofia barely had time to finish her coffee before the house shifted into motion. Voices echoed through hallways, doors opened and closed with purpose, and the quiet luxury of the estate transformed into something tactical. When Adrian appeared, dressed in a tailored dark coat, his expression made it clear this wasn't a routine outing. He didn't explain much as they moved, only that they were meeting someone who owed him loyalty and feared him enough to tell the truth. Sofia sat in the back of the SUV again, watching the city change as they drove farther from familiar streets into industrial zones where warehouses stood like silent witnesses to too many secrets. The place they stopped at looked abandoned from the outside, but Sofia felt eyes on her the moment she stepped out. Inside, The air smelled like metal and old dust. Adrian walked ahead, unhurried, as if nothing in the world could rush him. In a stark room lit by a single overhead lamp, a man sat restrained to a chair, bloodied but conscious. Sofia's breath caught when she saw his face. "It's him," she said quietly. "The man from the bar." Adrian turned to her, his gaze sharp. "You're certain?" She nodded. "I'll never forget that face." The restrained man laughed weakly. "She remembers me," he said, voice hoarse. "Guess I made an impression." Adrian stepped closer, his presence alone enough to drain the humor from the man's expression. "You were paid to watch," Adrian said calmly. "To confirm my routine. To signal when the time was right." The man swallowed hard. "I didn't know they'd use poison," he said quickly. "I swear." Adrian crouched to eye level. "That's unfortunate," he replied. "Because it makes you either a liar or a fool." Sofia looked away, her stomach churning. She hadn't expected this part, the closeness of violence, the quiet certainty of it. "Who hired you?" Adrian asked. The man hesitated, eyes flicking towards Sofia. "You already know," he said finally. "Someone you trust." The words landed like a blow. Adrian didn't react immediately, but Sofia felt the shift in him, like a blade sliding free. "Names," Adrian said again. The man exhaled shakily. "Victor Klein." Sofia frowned. "Who?" Adrian stood slowly. "My logistics head," he said, his voice dangerously even. "The man who's been managing my shipments for 8 years. Silence swallowed the room. Sofia's chest tightened. "So this was planned from inside," she said. "Yes," Adrian replied. The restrained man looked between them. "He said you were getting careless," he blurted out. "Said it was time for new leadership." Adrian's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes hardened. "Leadership isn't taken," he said softly. "It's earned." He straightened and turned away, signaling to his men. "Take him," he ordered. "Make sure he never watches anything again." Sofia flinched at the words, the finality of them. As they were escorted out, her legs felt unsteady. Adrian noticed. Outside, cold air hit her face, grounding her. "You didn't have to come in," he said quietly. "I needed to know," she replied. "I needed to see what kind of world I stepped into." Adrian studied her. And I understand why people fear you," she said honestly. "But I also see why someone would want you gone." A dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. "Careful," he warned. "Truth doesn't protect you here." The ride back was silent, tension thick between them. When they reached the house, Adrian finally spoke. "Victor Klein is not careless," he said. "If he moved against me, he has support." "So this isn't over," Sofia said. "No," Adrian replied. "It's beginning." Inside, Sofia paced the living room, adrenaline still buzzing. "He knows I saw his man," she said. "If he ordered the poisoning, he'll want me gone too." Adrian nodded. "Which is why you'll stay close to me." She stopped. "That's not protection. That's putting a target on my back." Adrian stepped toward her. "You already have one," he said. "Standing next to me is the safest place you can be." She searched his face, trying to find doubt, cruelty, something simple. Instead, she found resolve. "You don't trust easily," she said. "No," he agreed. "But I trust patterns. And you don't fit the pattern of someone who betrays for convenience." Her voice softened. "You grabbed my hand because you thought I was lying." "I grabbed your hand," he corrected, "because I needed to know if you'd pull away." "And when I didn't, I knew you were telling the truth," he said. The honesty in his voice unsettled her more than anger would have. Outside, the sun dipped low, shadows stretching long across the walls. Somewhere in the city, Victor Klein was still free, still planning. Sofia wrapped her arms around herself. "What happens when he makes his move?" she asked. Adrian's gaze turned distant, calculating. "Then," he said, "everyone chooses a side." He looked back at her. "Including you." Her heart pounded as the weight of his words settled in. She hadn't just warned a mafia king. She had stepped onto the board of a war she didn't know how to escape, and the man she'd saved was now the one deciding how close to the fire she would stand. Night wrapped the city in a deceptive calm, but inside Adrian Volkov's world, every second felt sharpened to a point. Sofia sensed it in the way guards doubled at entrances, in the low murmurs over secure phones, in the stillness Adrian carried like armor. After the revelation about Victor Klein, nothing was casual anymore, not words, not glances, not even silence. Sofia stayed close, as ordered, though close, didn't mean comfort. It meant awareness. It meant learning the rhythms of a man who lived by calculated restraint. Hours passed while plans were whispered behind closed doors, maps studied, calls placed to people who answered only for Adrian. Sofia sat at the long dining table, pretending to read while listening, absorbing fragments, shipment routes, meeting windows, a gala scheduled in 48 hours that Victor would attend because he believed it was safe. Adrian joined her at last, loosening his cufflinks, fatigue briefly visible in the line of his shoulders. "You should sleep," he said. "Tomorrow will be loud." She met his eyes. "So will tonight, if he moves first." Adrian paused, then nodded. "Fair." He poured water, drank, then leaned back, studying her like a chess piece he refused to sacrifice. "Victor believes you're my weakness," he said. Sofia blinked. "That's ridiculous." "It's useful," Adrian replied. "Enemies attack what they think they understand." A shiver ran through her. "You're using me as bait." "I'm using the truth he believes," Adrian said calmly. "And I'll be there." She searched his face. "You don't make promises lightly." "I don't make them at all," he corrected. "I make guarantees." The house hummed through the early hours, then quieted just before dawn. Sofia drifted into a light sleep on a couch near the study, waking to the sound of Adrian speaking her name, softly, urgently. "We have a problem," he said. A security feed glowed on the wall, a black sedan idling across the street from the bar she used to work at. Her chest tightened. "He's sending a message." "He's testing," Adrian replied. "Seeing if you're protected." Sofia stood. "We can't let him hurt anyone there." "He won't," Adrian said. "Not yet. He wants me to see." The car rolled away on the feed, leaving a cold echo in its wake. The day unfolded with relentless precision. Tailors adjusted suits. Vehicles rotated. Routes were rehearsed. Adrian explained the plan without ornament. Attend the gala, let Victor approach, watch who shadows him, trace the network outward. Sofia would stay with Adrian, visible, composed, unafraid. "I'm not trained for this," she said. "You are," Adrian replied. "You read rooms. You notice what doesn't belong. You warned me because you trusted your instincts." She swallowed. "Instincts don't stop bullets. Discipline does," he said. "And distance." Evening arrived dressed in crystal and velvet. The gala glimmered with wealth and smiles that didn't reach eyes. Sofia felt exposed in a simple black dress, her pulse loud in her ears, but Adrian's presence anchored her. He moved with her through the crowd, a hand at the small of her back, not possessive, protective. Victor appeared near the bar, immaculate and confident, surprise flickering when he saw Sofia at Adrian's side. The look hardened into calculation. He approached with practiced ease. "Adrian," Victor said, smiling. "You look well." "I am," Adrian replied. "You look busy." Victor's gaze slid to Sofia. "And this is someone who saved my life," Adrian said, without blinking. The truth landed like a thrown knife. Victor recovered, lifting his glass. "To loyal staff," he said. Sofia met his eyes, steady. She felt the attention shift around them, the watchers revealing themselves through two still postures, the subtle choreography of threat. Victor leaned closer. "Careful," he murmured to Sofia. "Kings fall when they trust strangers." Adrian's reply was soft, lethal. "Kings fall when they forget who built the throne." The music swelled, applause erupted for a speech at the far end, and the moment fractured. Adrian guided Sofia away, murmuring instructions. "Two men at 3 o'clock. One at the exit pretending to text. Remember their shoes." She did. The night escalated in increments. A server bumped her shoulder too deliberately, a fire door opened then closed, a phone buzzed in Victor's hand. Adrian's jaw tightened. "We're leaving," he said. As they moved, a crack cut the air, sharp, unmistakable. Panic rippled. Adrian pulled Sofia behind a marble column, his body shielding hers. Security surged. Another crack, closer this time, then chaos. Adrian's voice was calm in her ear. "Breathe. Stay down." She did, counting breaths while the world fractured into noise. Minutes stretched. Then quiet returned, broken by sirens. They escaped through a service corridor into a waiting car. Only when the doors sealed did Sofia realize she was shaking. Adrian took her hands, grounding her. "You did well," he said. "You remembered. Someone tried to kill you again," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "And failed." Back at the house, reports poured in. The shooter vanished. Victor vanished too. The net tightened, but the prey had slipped. Adrian dismissed everyone and stood alone with Sofia in the dim study. He won't stop, she said. No, Adrian agreed. He looked at her, something unguarded flickering there. Neither will I. She stepped closer, the gravity undeniable. I don't want blood on my conscience. Then help me end this clean, he said. Outside, the city exhaled, unaware. Inside, the line between protection and partnership thinned, and Sofia understood that standing beside the Mafia king wasn't just safer, it was a choice that would define who she became when the fire finally closed. The days following the gala blurred into a tense vigil, each hour stretching tight as wire. Victor Klein had vanished cleanly, too cleanly, leaving behind decoys and dead ends that spoke of careful planning. Adrian tightened his circle, reduced communications to whispers and gestures, and moved Sofia into the inner rhythm of his days, not as a shield, not as bait, but as someone whose presence sharpened his focus. They spent long nights in the study, maps spread across the desk, timelines layered atop one another, patterns emerging only to dissolve again. Sofia learned the language of danger. The pause before a decision, the glance that meant retreat, the silence that signaled a trap. She also learned Adrian's tells, the way his jaw set when a report didn't add up, the slight tilt of his head when he was already 3 moves ahead. It was during one of those late nights, when rain stitched the windows with silver lines and the house felt suspended from the world, that the truth finally surfaced. A courier arrived with a sealed packet recovered from a burned safe, half-charred documents, a phone with a cracked screen, and a memory card wrapped in oilskin. Adrian dismissed the guards and locked the door himself, a rare admission that what followed mattered. They watched the footage together. Victor speaking to someone off camera, his tone deferential, almost wary. The bartender complicates things, Victor said. She won't be quiet, a voice replied, altered but unmistakably familiar to Sofia, the cadence, the careful patience. Her blood ran cold. The room seemed to tilt. Adrian froze, then rewound, listening again, eyes narrowing. The voice belonged to Marco, Sofia's brother. The man she had protected, the man she believed was rebuilding, was woven into this war. The phone slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the desk. Adrian caught it before it fell, then turned to her, the question already there. She shook her head, tears burning, words failing. He wouldn't, she whispered, as if saying it could make it true. Adrian didn't soften the truth. He is, he said gently, firmly. But not as Victor's equal. They played the rest. Marco spoke of leverage, of debt, of promises made to keep Sofia safe by keeping her close to Adrian, close enough to watch, close enough to control. Sofia pressed her palms to her temples, shame and fury colliding. He thought he was protecting me, she said hoarsely. By feeding information. Adrian nodded. Victor used him. And when Victor failed, Marco became expendable. The implication landed hard. Victor would silence Marco to clean the board. Sofia surged to her feet. We have to get to him. Adrian was already moving. We will, he said. But not recklessly. They traced Marco's last known contact to a riverside warehouse, a place Victor once used, then abandoned. Adrian assembled a small team, the quiet kind that didn't announce itself. Sofia insisted on coming. You said honesty, she said, meeting Adrian's gaze. This is mine. He searched her face, weighing risk against resolve, then nodded once. The warehouse loomed like a dark ribcage against the water, its windows blind, its doors scarred. Inside, the air smelled of damp and rust. They moved without sound, the team fanning out. Sofia's heart hammered as they reached an office overlooking the river. Marco was there, tied, bruised, alive. Relief surged, then curdled as footsteps echoed behind them. Victor emerged from the shadows, gun loose in his hand, a thin smile cutting his face. Adrian, he said, you always did bring the storm with you. Adrian stepped forward, calm as a held breath. You're finished, he said. Victor laughed softly. Am I? I gave your enemies a story they believed. I turned loyalty into a blade. His gaze flicked to Sofia. And I gave her a reason to stay. Sofia moved toward Marco, voice shaking but clear. I didn't ask for this. Victor shrugged. No one does. The standoff snapped when Victor raised the gun toward Marco. Adrian didn't flinch. You kill him, he said, and you lose the only leverage you have left. Victor hesitated, just a fraction. It was enough. A shot cracked, not fatal, a calculated wound. Victor dropped the gun, stunned, then bolted. Adrian's men pursued. Sofia cut Marco free, holding him as he sagged, tears streaking through grime. I'm sorry, Marco gasped. I know, she said, voice breaking. Sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian's call had drawn them close enough to close the net. Victor was caught on the docks, cornered by water and consequence. He looked back once as they took him down, eyes empty of victory. Back at the house, dawn crept in pale and quiet. Marco was taken to safety, arrangements made that would erase him from Victor's reach. Sofia stood alone in the study, the weight of truth settling into something steadier than pain. Adrian joined her, standing close but not touching. You did what you could, he said. She nodded, swallowing hard. So did you. He met her eyes. This ends tonight. She believed him. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, the war narrowed to a final line, and Sofia understood that saving a king had cost her innocence, but it had also given her clarity. When the last move came, she would stand in the light, not the shadows, and choose what kind of power she would carry forward. The night air outside the Volkov estate was unusually still, almost fragile, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Sofia stood by the large window in the study, staring out at the dark streets below. Her reflection merged with the city lights in the glass, a woman who had once believed she could live a normal life, now caught in a world of calculated danger, power, and choices she had never imagined making. Adrian's presence behind her was quiet, deliberate. He didn't need to speak for her to feel the weight of his attention, the unspoken tension that ran between them. The events of the past week had escalated faster than she could process. Poison, betrayal, the revelation about Marco, and Victor Klein's final desperate gamble. Now, everything had narrowed to a single conclusion. Victor was captured, his network dismantled, and the chessboard cleared. But Adrian's world was never simple, and neither were the rules that governed it. Sofia, Adrian's voice broke the silence, low and precise. Come with me. She followed him through the halls, the floors echoing with soft footsteps. They reached a small, secure room where Victor was held, hands restrained, eyes wide, every gesture betraying the sudden understanding that his game was over. Adrian didn't speak immediately. He approached Victor with measured calm, a king deciding the fate of someone who had dared to challenge him. Sofia felt her stomach tighten. She had seen the edge in Adrian's eyes before, but this was different, controlled fury, sharpened by intelligence and the inevitability of consequence. Victor smirked, trying to mask fear with arrogance. You think this ends with me? He said. You think capturing me changes anything? Adrian leaned forward, close enough that his shadow fell across Victor's face. I don't think, he said. I know. The words were simple, but they carried authority, weight, and finality. He straightened and signaled to his men. Victor's smirk faltered as the guards approached. Adrian turned to Sofia. Watch closely, he said. What happens now is the difference between mercy and judgment. Sofia held her breath, unsure of what he would choose. In this world, mercy was rare, and judgment was absolute. Adrian walked past Victor, his presence commanding, almost magnetic. He stopped, hand on Victor's shoulder. You underestimated loyalty, misread patterns, and tried to manipulate those you believed weak, he said. You failed. Victor's bravado cracked, his voice lower, edged with desperation. You won't last forever. People like me always find a way. Adrian's eyes didn't waver. People like you are predictable, he replied. And predictable people fall. He stepped back, letting the guards secure Victor further. Then, he turned to Sofia. You've seen enough tonight to understand something, he said quietly. This world isn't about luck. It's about choices, consequences, and the strength to see both clearly. Sofia swallowed, her pulse racing. And, the choices we make decide who survives and who doesn't, Adrian said. His gaze softened fractionally as he looked at her. Sometimes they even decide who you become. For a long moment, Sofia realized he wasn't speaking just about the world of crime and power, but about her, her courage, her instincts, the way she had stepped forward when others would have hidden. It had drawn him in, made her indispensable. And in a strange, dangerous way, it had also made her a part of him. The storm outside had passed, leaving the night calm, deceptively peaceful. Sofia felt a shift in herself. Fear and adrenaline were still present, but beneath them, there was clarity, a recognition that she had survived every choice, every test, and that she had also shaped outcomes that even Adrian couldn't ignore. Adrian approached her once more, standing close, yet not imposing. Tonight is the end of the immediate threat, he said. But threats in my world never truly disappear. You need to understand that. She nodded. I do. Silence stretched, comfortable in its tension. You could leave, Adrian said after a pause. Return to your life, your world. Sofia looked up at him, considering the offer, though her instincts already knew she couldn't. And what about you? She asked softly. I don't leave my world, he said simply. Not when it matters most. Their eyes met, unspoken understanding flowing between them. She realized then that she had become something Adrian Volkov didn't usually allow, someone who mattered beyond strategy or survival. She had stepped into his life, and he had acknowledged her presence in a way no one else ever could. The weight of that truth made her pulse quicken. Outside, the city lights flickered like distant stars, indifferent to the battles waged in the dark corners, the lives shifted by unseen hands. Inside, Sofia understood that the danger was far from over. But neither was the bond that had been forged between them, the tension, the trust, the shared understanding that they had survived impossible odds together. Adrian reached out, not touching her, but close enough for the promise to resonate. Whatever comes next, he said quietly, we face it together. Sofia's lips parted slightly, heart pounding, and she nodded. Together, she repeated, finally allowing herself to acknowledge it, not just the danger, but the connection, the unspoken alliance that had formed between them. The night stretched ahead, uncertain and endless. But in that moment, with the storm behind them and the world outside still unaware, Sofia realized she had chosen a side. And in Adrian Volkov's world, choosing a side meant everything. It meant survival. It meant power. And, perhaps, it meant something more, something dangerous, intimate, and impossible to ignore. As the city breathed around them, she stood beside the man who had once been a stranger, now a king who had grabbed her hand and never let go. She had survived the night, saved a life, uncovered betrayal, and witnessed judgment. But more than that, she had stepped into a world where nothing was simple, nothing was safe, and yet, for the first time, she felt alive, not just in danger, but in purpose, in connection, and in the irreversible choice to remain. The dawn would come. The world would move. Threats would rise again. But tonight, the king had decided. And so had she. In Adrian Volkov's kingdom of shadows and power, Sofia had finally found her place, and it was right beside him.